What's up, YouTube? Welcome to today's video, and we are going to go over what I think is probably the best League starter for 3.20. Now, I usually have a pretty stringent criteria for League starter where I want the League starter to have great mapping, great bossing to the point where I can do boss carries. It just has to have it all. It needs to be fast movement speed. It needs to have a spammable movement skill. It needs to have good endgame scalability. And once again, we have arrived at Venom Gyre. Now, the reason I was on the fence about Venom Gyre was because it did receive roughly a 25% damage nerf with the Withering Step change with elusive effect. So basically, for people who don't know, now when you go into your elusive effect, it will probably be around half of what the original value is. So you can see here, it's around a 25% damage nerf from what its peak usually was. Now, all of this was pretty much canceled out because the Vaal Venom Gyre skill really just looks that good. And this is from Captain Lance. Now, Captain Lance is probably one of the most knowledgeable guys in PoE out there. And just listen to his take about Vaal Venom Gyre and how excited he is to play the skill.
I was really excited. Val skills is just, they represent like fun to me, right? They
It's
represent
fun.
doing something that's, I think is interesting, something that's cool. And the stuff they've given here, they've given us a lot of cool Val skills, and I think Venom Gyre takes the cake. I think it's the best in slot.
You hear that? He thinks Venom Gyre takes the cake and is the best in slot. And he even made a video that says Vaal Venom Gyre looks hot. And yeah, so that's all you pretty much need to know. Now, originally I was debating between Wave of Conviction Elementalist and Venom Gyre Deadeye. Now, GGG did finally release the details of this skill, and it is amazing. And also, something else to consider is that Young Rowan also released a ring that could be a game changer for all projectile-based builds, and that includes Venom Gyre, and we'll go over what that ring actually does. And the current meta for League starters is definitely trending towards Poison and Ignite builds. In this video, actually, he is trying to do Poison Venom Gyre. And while I think Poison Venom Gyre does work, I think it is a far cry away from Elemental Trinity based. So here you can see Ziz's recent videos. It's the King of Bossing Seismic Trap Saboteur League starter and Explosive Arrow Ignite League starter. And his other League starter, I think, is Pathfinder Toxic Rain. So they're all Poison and Ignite builds because Poison and Ignite builds greatly benefit from the curse changes due to temp chains. Now, Vaal Venom Gyre, and this is the $100 million skill, and this is, in my opinion, the best Vaal skill out of the bunch. So what it actually does is it grants you 50 blades, and it creates an 8-second duration buff. So we actually go look at the skill here, and it actually looks pretty nice and pretty cool. So you can see here, all these blades pop up. So as soon as you press the skill, you get all of these blades. Now, a lot of people don't really know, Venom Gyre is usually capped at 30 blades. Now, the nice part about these blades is that when you whirling blades, these blades fire sequentially. And what that means is that every single blade has the potential to shotgun, or so we think. So 50 blades means if you whirling blades on top of the boss, you can get up to 50 blades worth of shotgunning. So let's go see here. So you can see here, it also regenerates. You see how the number goes back up slowly? And in this clip here, he's only spamming whirling blades to get his charges back. So he's able to spam it a lot, and it goes all the way down to 5. And what I think is this 8-second duration buff pretty much specifies how long you could have over the cap. Now, I don't really know if there's a way to refresh that, but overall, the skill seems amazing. Now, this addresses one of our main problems, which is that single target is a huge problem. And because the blade cap is increased, and we also get those blades instantly, this helps us with setting up that burst window, which is where we can just spam whirling blades on top of the boss. And instead of having to throw the Venom Gyres out there, we can pretty much just press the Vaal skill and have amazing single target while we do it. Now, another thing to keep in mind is if we do decide to use this with the Vaal Sextant, we can potentially clear the map by just spamming whirling blades. And this is very similar to the Vaal Spark and Fireball meta in the past. So there is a potential, if you use that Sextant, that you could pretty much just clear map by whirling blading through the map, and that is an amazing thing to think about. Now, this ring by Jung is potentially completely game-changing for this build if we do decide to use it, and it could lead to a damage that's pretty much doubled for the shotgunning portion of it. So this new ring, what it does is it allows your projectiles to return to you at the cost of your projectiles firing in random directions. Now, Venom Gyre is not the best in the world with the projectiles firing in random directions, but it does clear the map super well still. So what this does is that the original Venom Gyre projectile you throw out already comes back to you, but the ones you shoot out with your rolling blades does not return to you. Now, even though it will return to you, it will not give you more blades because that's pretty much what the skill gem says. So theoretically, this gem will allow the shotgunning portion of the Venom Gyre to actually return to you. So if we actually look at this thing again, you see all those projectiles that go out. All of these projectiles with Jung's ring could potentially go back to you, hitting the mob again if you're still whirling blading on top of the mob. And this could be a huge single target boost. And with this ring and the Vaal Venom Gyre, we could potentially be looking at Venom Gyre doing way more damage, like 30 to 50% more damage on single target, if this ring works the way we think it works. Now, the reason why it's called Nimbus Topaz Ring, and I found this on Reddit, is because the acronym for this is NTR, and NTR means the lover sleeping with someone cheating. So it's like some Japanese thing I found that was pretty funny. Now, you might be wondering how bad this downside actually is, and if you ever want to know what this downside actually feels like, just go do a map, take the Eldritch Altar with the projectiles firing in random directions, and you'll be able to see how Venom Gyre feels to play. And once you get enough projectiles, it won't really be that big of a deal. Now, next up, another thing why this makes it the best League starter ever, it is the price of Crystallized Omniscience. Now, all of the recommended League starters that you see in people's videos, the top 5, top 10, most of them do not use Omniscience as their poison-based, ignite-based, or cold-based, or cold dot base. So some of the most popular League starters you see are probably Cold Dot, Seismic Trap, Toxic Rain, Self-Cast Inquisitor Spark, which doesn't use Omni either. And then you have, there's just a bunch of skills, Bone Shatter, Wave of Conviction Ignite, Vortex Ignite. And all of those skills, you realize they all share a common theme. They do not use Omniscience. Now, the most popular build last league pretty much was Vaal Lightning Strike. And everyone thinks this build is completely dead because of the projectile change. I'm not really sure if the build is completely dead. But for our purposes, let's just say the build is completely dead. No one is actually even going to try to roll it. So what this means is that there's going to be a pretty low demand for Omniscience. So theoretically, the price should be a lot lower than before, depending on how popular Venom Gyre is for League starting. And attack-based Trinity Elemental builds will definitely not be as popular as last league. So Blizzard Crown, Yoke of Suffering, and all those goodies will probably be a lot cheaper than compared to last league. Now, another thing that people are really concerned about is how good is Venom Gyre for leveling. Now, a lot of people leveled with Spectral Helix in the past, and Spectral Helix kind of got dumpstered. Like, it just got completely nerfed. It got like a 30 to 40% damage effectiveness nerf. Now, I do believe that Spectral Helix is fully capable of still finishing the campaign. The damage was completely overkill. However, there is a better option out there, and it is quite an amazing option, and this is with Splitting Steel. So level 1 to 12, you use Splitting Steel, and then later on, you use Poisonous Concoction until the end of the campaign. And the reason why this is so good is because for poison builds, all you have to take is 1, 2, 3, 4 points. 5 points right here. Then you take these points over here. And then you take, these points over here. And then you're pretty much set. And then you could sometimes take these points right here. And all of those points that you take can be respect with the respect points you get from your doing the campaign. So you have pretty much a perfect Venom Gyre tree or a Poisonous Concoction tree while lovely, and then you can swap over to Venom Gyre as soon as you finish the campaign. You get all of your labs, meaning that you have the chain, you have the 2 additional projectiles, and you also have Gathering Winds for Tailwind. So it is a super smooth lovely experience, and Poisonous Concoction is pretty much the new Spectral Helix. It's really that good for lovely. I was testing out a lovely run and pretty much with just LMP and volley. The skill does absolutely absurd damage and pretty much rivals Spectral Helix in how fast the lovely is. The main downside is that you don't have a spammable movement skill since we don't get shield charge, so you have to have a friend mule you shield charge at the start of the league. Now, overall, I do think that this is probably going to be the best league starter for 3.20 for me personally because it will feel like a new skill. And that's the biggest thing, right? A lot of people are tired of the meta. They don't want to play the same things. That's why a lot of people are actually trying to make Toxic Rain work today. And it's pretty much you would just want to play something different. And I do think that the Vaal Venom Gyre ability, along with the new MTX, should give me a new enough experience that I can play this build again for League starting. I also believe that this is the best Vaal skill out of all of the ones that were released in 3.20. And this build is one of the few, I don't know if you saw my last video, that is an amazing mapping build. It's probably one of the fastest mappers in the game. It did get #1 overall in the Delhi Everywhere SSF race. So it got 101st in the SSF race, which means that it's also really good in SSF because it really uses no uniques that are absolutely mandatory. And it also transitions very well into maps, Voidstone farming, endgame farming, and is also great for the league mechanic because you're able to do damage while on the move, so you can focus on dodging stuff. And last but not least, it has great endgame scalability. And right here, this is my character on day 3 of the league. Ignore the Mage Blood. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully not. But you can see I was doing Maven carries or Uber Elder carries for 2 to 3 people at a time with 2 to 3 player HP at 553k DPS on the build. And if you look later, this is what the endgame scalability becomes, 5.9 million DPS. And this is pretty much 10 times the amount of damage as I was having. So you can see here, you can greatly scale your damage to absurd levels while maintaining like similar tankiness. I think this build is a little bit squishier. And Venom Gyre, I think maybe even better than last league because the Vault scale really addresses its downside, which is his single target burst. I do know a lot of people complain about how they were struggling with map bosses because they weren't using name lock correctly. Well, with Vaal Venom Gyre, you don't really need to worry about that. The main thing that is probably going to be the issue is that the survivability is going to be a little bit worse because your elusive effect on average is going to be a lot lower. But overall, I highly recommend this build if you want to try something a little bit different and you just want to have a great experience or you want to have one character that can do it all. But let me know down in the comments below what you actually think about Vaal Venom Gyre and what you will personally be league starting. But I will be league starting this. I did finish off the Wave of Conviction Elementalist run and I will be making a video about it. But I was able to finish all of the Void Stones in a, or not all of the Void Stones, but 2 of the Void Stones with a 3.5 link Wave of Conviction. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more Mirrors, Exalted Orbs, Divines, and Mage Bloods than me. And see you next time. Bye.